Hey guys, happy Saturday. Everything on the sun here. This article is from the economiccollapseblog.com, and I've not done a story from here in a little while, and this one piqued my interest because it's talking about Italy. We've been talking about Greece, but there's a whole bunch of other countries in the EU that are close to collapse. Portugal is one of them, and Italy is another one of them that are very close to collapsing. And, Greece is all but collapsed. The only reason they are still a country with a government is because of massive economic bailouts, now which they're trying to get reprieve from. They're trying to get relief on the debt payments that they received from the Eurozone. So they don't even want to pay the bailout money that they received, and that was the only reason they stayed afloat, didn't completely collapse into absolute depression. This one's talking about Italy's banks, though, and maybe this will be the next one that kind of we start talking about and has real issues. The collapse of Italy's banks threatens to plunge the European financial system into chaos. The Italian banking system is a leaning tower that could truly collapse at literally any moment. And as Italy's bank begins to go down like dominoes, it is going to set off financial panic all over Europe unlike anything we've ever seen. He wrote back in January about the troubles of the writer of the article here, but since that time the crisis has escalated. At this point, Italian banking stocks have declined a whopping 28%. Italian banking stocks declined 28% since the beginning of 2016. And when you look at some of the biggest Italian banks, those numbers become even more frightening. On Monday, shares of Monte dei Paschi were down 4.7%, and they have now plummeted 56% since the start of the year. Shares of Carige, which were down 8%, have now plunged a total of 58% since the start of the year. So Italy, and this is, I didn't even know this, they appear to be falling off a cliff, absolutely, and accelerating. And this is, I think we're going to hear soon about this in the mainstream media, considering the troubles these banks are having. We're going to need a bailout, and maybe this is why the ECB and Draghi did the negative interest rates and the massive money printing, because maybe a lot of it's going to Italy to keep them, keep their heads above water, basically. Well, we also saw how difficult it was for the rest of the year to come up with a plan to rescue Greece, but Greece is relatively small. They only have the 44th largest economy in the world. The Italian economy is much larger. Italy has the 8th largest economy in the world, and their government debt to GDP ratio is currently sitting at 132%. There is no way that Europe has the resources or ability to handle the full meltdown of the Italian financial system. Italian banks are absolutely drowning in non-performing loans, and as Jeffrey Moore has noted, this potentially represents the greatest threat to the world's already burdened financial system. Now, what is it, the greatest threat? Is it China? Or is it Italy, or is it something else? And I think it's one of these players in the world economy is going to absolutely collapse so fast that the central banks can't do anything about it. They can't print money fast enough. Shares of Italy's largest financial institutions have plummeted in the opening months of 2016 as piles of bad debt on their balance sheets becomes too high to ignore. And this is why they're probably lowering interest rates, to make it easier to pay off all these loans, to finance the loans. Just like the U.S., to finance, to pay the interest on all the loans that the U.S. has as a country, it's very expensive. So if you lower the interest rate, your minimum payment is decreased, just like for your credit card, and therefore it's easier to pay for your loans that you have. So maybe the ECB, Mario Draghi, is lowering it because he knows Greece and Italy and the other countries can't pay the minimum payments on their loans. So if you decrease the interest on them, that means your debt repayment money each month decreases and makes it easier to basically hold that loan and to keep paying it down, or at least to look like you keep paying it down. At the core of the issue is the non-performing loans on banks' books, which estimates range from 17 to 21% of total lending. The amounts approximately 200 billion, or 12% of Italy's GDP. Moreover, in some cases, bad loans make up an alarming 30% of individual banks' balances. So those bad loans are a massive percentage of the apparent assets that the bank has, and they're going to crash when they have to actually come around and deal with that. Things have already gotten so bad that the European Central Bank is now monitoring liquidity levels at Monte dei Paschi and Carige on a daily basis. The following comes from Reuters. And again, this is why Draghi decided to print a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of more quantitative easing. That money is probably going straight to Italy because on a daily basis they need to reliquidate Italy and the other countries. European Central Bank, the ECB, Mario Draghi, is checking liquidity levels at a number of Italian banks, including Banca Carige and Monte dei Paschi de Siena. On a daily basis, two sources close to the matter said on Monday. Italian banking shares have fallen sharply. The ECB is putting pressure on several Italian banks to improve their capital position. The regulator can decide to monitor liquidity levels at any bank and supervises on a weekly basis if it has any concern about deposits or funding. A run on the big Italian banks has already begun. That is bad news for the Italian banks. Do the Italians know what's happening? Italians have been already quietly pulling billions of euros out of the banking system. They run into gold and silver. They probably are, or they're paying off their houses. They're taking what little savings they have and buying assets because they know the banks are about to collapse. And if the banks continue to crumble, this stealth run could quickly become a stampede. And I've already said, if you have any kind of money in the bank or in the markets, you need to pull it out now before the banks completely collapse. Worst case scenario, the banks don't collapse and you have this money sitting in an asset somewhere. You resell that and you put it in, if the central banks figure it out and pull us out of this tailspin. But chances are, if history tells us anything, we're heading straight for a depression. A deteriorating financial crisis in Italy could risk repercussions across the EU exponentially greater than those spurred by Greece. The ripple effects of the market turmoil and the potential for dangerous precedents being set by EU authorities in panicked response to the turmoil could ignite yet more latent financial vulnerabilities in fragile EU members such as Spain and Portugal. Spain was the other one I couldn't think of that has big economic issues, and they're continuing to talk about that. Unfortunately, most Americans are completely blinded to what is going on in the rest of the world because stocks in the U.S. have had a good run for the past couple of weeks. Not because everybody's flying, moving into safe havens, U.S. dollar as an example right now. But if you remember the inverted money pyramid, once people lose more confidence, people will be moving from U.S. dollars into gold and silver. And really that's the indication that we've seen the sale of gold and silver has really taken off, and gold and silver are increasing in value on the markets, even though they're trying to manipulate and depress them, because the central banks don't want gold and silver to increase, because that makes the economy look like it's doing bad, which it is. But they want to manipulate it to make it look like gold and silver are worthless and the economy is doing well. Most Americans are completely blinded to what's going on. Headlines are declaring that the risk of a new recession has passed and the crisis is over. Meanwhile, South America is plunging into a full-blown depression. The Italian banking system is melting down. Global manufacturing numbers are the worst that we have seen since the last recession, and global trade is absolutely imploding. Other than that, things are pretty good. Seriously, it is absolutely critical that we don't allow ourselves to be fooled by every little wave of momentum in the stock market. Total U.S. business sales, not just sales of the S&P, but also sales of small caps and other small businesses, even those that are not publicly traded, peaked in July 2014 at 1.365 trillion, according to the Census Bureau. By December 2015, total business sales were down 4.6% from that peak. A bad 18 months for sales. So generally everything is imploding. Well, the truth is that nobody should want to see what is coming. Personally, I rejoice for every extra day, week, and month we are given. Every extra day is another day to prepare. Every extra day is another day to enjoy the extremely comfortable standard of living in our debt-fueled prosperity of what our debt-fueled prosperity has produced for us. He's talking about the first world living standards that we have in North America and in Europe, although it's heading downwards quickly in Europe. But still in North America, US, Canada, just as examples, we're pretty much immune and sheltered from any economic trouble. And we really don't see it. We are living, fat, dumb, and happy. We can afford food for our table still. It's slowly creeping up, but generally, all other things considered, we just watch things on the news happening in the rest of the world, and that's not us. But the rest of the world is seeing the impact, like the million workers in China that just that are getting laid off, and they have to deal with that. We're not seeing that in North America yet. Again, because the U.S. dollar has been seen as a safe haven, which is propping it up artificially. And in Canada, we're sheltered. I think there's still a lot of blessing on Canada for its past government, which did support Israel strongly. But I think that a blessing may be pulled away. Just depends how the liberal government starts treating Israel. I think those who bless Israel are blessed by the Lord, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. That's part of the I think it's the Abrahamic. Not the Abrahamic covenant, but spoken of in the Old Testament, the Bible. Most Americans have, and Canadians I would add, have absolutely no idea how spoiled we are. Like I say, we're living fat, dumb, and happy right now. We don't know what's coming upon us, which is going to make it even worse. When it does come down, things are just going to go mad, and we are going to be absolutely panicking. It's going to be a revolution. There's going to be chaos, because we have no idea how to live in any other society than one that is rich, full of food, full of gas, shelter. When these things are pulled away from us, it's going to be it's going to be an even bigger fall, an even bigger problem, because we're not used to living in poverty. We're not used to getting by on our own in Canada and the U.S. If we have to go back and live the way Americans did, or Canadians, 100 or 150 years ago, there are very few of us that would be able to successfully do that, which means you're going to have people starving, you're going to have people murdering each other to get hands on food. People will get desperate, and they will do whatever they can to get food for their family or for themselves. So it's going to be a real disorderly breakdown in society. So enjoy the remaining days of debt-fueled prosperity while you still can, he says, because great changes are coming, and it's going to be extremely bitter for most of the population. I think this is true. If this is just another economic collapse like we've seen in history, it's going to be absolutely mad. Now, prophetically, if we are in the end times, is a world leader going to come in just before we hit this collapse and say, I've got a plan, sign up for the mark of the beast, and I will take care of it, and just hold off that economic collapse just a little bit longer. but then move us right into the 7 years tribulation. So I'm kind of waffling as to where we are. Are we going to see an absolute depression? Because the Bible says that people will be eating and drinking and being married just before destruction. And maybe that destruction is the economic collapse. Let me see if I can find that verse. I turn the whole story around. I found the prophetic passage. This is from Matthew 24, starting in verse. Let's start in verse 36 here. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, before absolute destruction of the world, People were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage up to the day Noah entered the ark. Noah, being an example of the Jewish people being saved through the trouble, through the tribulation, being in a boat, and Enoch was an example of the rapture, the pre-tribulation rapture. He did not die; he was taken away just prior to the destruction of the world, through which the Jewish people will go. That's kind of the pattern, the picture of at least those who believe in pre-tribulation rapture. See the story of the flood being a pattern of what's to come. They were eating and drinking and giving in marriage up until the day Noah entered the ark, and knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. So they were completely oblivious until the complete destruction came on them. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken to their left, 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill, one will be taken and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day the Lord will come. But understand this: if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come in an hour when you do not expect him. Now, I think we have a good indication of the general time period, and the Lord expects us to know the times and the seasons. We don't know the specific hour. If you want to take that verse literally, we don't know the hour, but I think we can judge the time frame, maybe even down to the year, if we knew, if we were able to find the patterns of the Bible and put them together. Just like the video I did a while back, where I kind of started the time calendar, the 3 days from Jesus' death on the cross. 3 days. He rose on the beginning of the 3rd day, and so since Christ's death in whatever it was, 30 AD or something, and you go 2,000 years, we're past the 2-day mark at that point. 2,000 years, or very nearly, approaching the two-day mark, 2,000 years past the death of Christ, which puts God's return very close. And I think if you look at that, that puts us kind of in this time frame that we're talking about here, where it's very close. So I think there are examples and suggestions and pictures and patterns that we can look to discern, how close are we. Not to mention the state of the world, where the state of the world is, volcanoes and all the earth things that are going on, the groaning of the earth, and all the trouble and the violence and the godlessness in the world, and the wars and rumors of wars, and then all the things that are happening with Israel. Israel's about to celebrate their 70th anniversary since coming into the land there. 1948, coming into, as a Jewish state. They're about to, I think 2017 is the anniversary of that. So you put all these things together, and I think you can get a pretty good indication of where we are in Earth's history, and we're, effectively 6,000 years since creation. We're in overtime right now, if you consider that. I think we're very near the 6,000 year time frame, near the end of it, where Lord has to return soon, if that pattern is going to hold, and then and reign for the last 1,000 years, the seventh day, the 6,000 years to 7,000 years, the millennial period. We're kind of at the end of the 6,000 year there. So like I say, if you look at all these things, it looks like we're in the end times. And this economic collapse starting with Italy, potentially, one of these is going to be the trigger to the economic collapse. And that could lead us right into the 7-year tribulation, because like I say, the Antichrist has to come on the stage and save the world from war, economic collapse, probably both, and implement a cashless society in the mark of the beast system. So I think that's what could become. So I've been long-winded here, but I was kind of talking through that. So anyways, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and I'll have another full weekly wrap-up tomorrow, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.